So, good afternoon, ladies and gents, and welcome back to New Media Literacy. Last week, we finished off the history of the information society that we are being called, and as well as, network society and attention society and all that jazz. And we also touched upon the three web periods, Web 1.0, 2.0, 3.0. Now, we have mentioned, ladies and gents, that we're currently living in Web 2.0, which is this user-generated, participatory, culture-based, common intelligence, common creation kind of period, which kind of results in the big data period, or resulted in the big data period that we also live in. Now, our new society really enjoys using big terms, as you have noticed, I'm sure, because we like the isms really much: feminism, Nazism, communism, all the big, dictatorships as well. And now it's going to be called big data-ism, our present period as well, because it's just all global, just as the big isms as well. And it's just kind of taking its toll on everybody's kind of life as well, both in a positive way and in a negative way. Of course, it does have a huge impact on us in a political, social, economic, psychological, in all those kind of ways as well. So let's take a look at what big data is. I'm pretty sure that you do have some ideas, because it's such a very widespread term that it's impossible not to actually know it or not to actually have heard it. Let's take a look, and then I'm going to kind of bring it down into a political kind of way and talk to you about how political campaigns, for example, the Donald Trump campaign was supported by big data, as well as the Hillary Clinton one too, but they weren't using Cambridge Analytica, which turned out to be a little more successful. And I will also, kind of raise questions about the Brexit one, which was also using big data, but practically nowadays every single political campaign will be using big data in general, and will be using targeted messages as well. So we will kind of bring it down into the political road. Now let's take a look at that. Good. Big data. So the proliferation of media content does require us, ladies and gents, from time to time to kind of interpret or reinterpret the media culture that we live in. And in exponential times like these, like ours, for example, it's a necessity to take a look at how data is being produced, of course, exponentially, how it's being kind of stored, what it's used for, what it is used for. It's going to be very, very much crucial to take a look at this. In case of a new media, 4 factors are manifested that shapes our reality at the moment, which is going to be data, very importantly, information, which I think do overlap in a sense, changing attention, and convergence. Convergence is something we will learn later on. We did kind of deal with all the rest of them. I mean, today we're dealing with data. Information we did talk about, and changing attention we did talk about. Convergence is coming up as well, but just a little bit to be forward thinking. Convergence, you can hear the word verge in it, and con is going to be a Latin preposition, which is like together. So practically the verges touch each other or come together. That's what convergence means. And it actually means that so many functions, technological, social, and all that jazz, will be kind of merging together. If you think about a smartphone, for example, this is going to be a technological convergence, that a smartphone at the same time is going to be a photo camera, a GPS, a radio, the internet. So it's a laptop and everything that you wish for. And so that's a technological convergence. But us, for example, we are convergent as well, because we are content generators and content users. At the same time, there is like a mix, cultural and social mix going on as well. But we will talk about that one later. Let's stick with data today. So, Davenport and Back, they were researchers of big data as well, and dataism in general, and they said that a single copy of the New York Times contains more factual information than all written material information available to readers in the 15th century. This is crazy. Just one single copy of the New York Times is like enough for a full-on century in the 15th century. In 1472, for example, in the most prominent library in the world, the Cambridge Queen's College, there were 199 books which were available. And that was the biggest library of the time. So you can tell that dataism has kind of changed the whole world. And now if you have a library which contains 199 books, you do have 199 books at home as well at the moment. So it's like that's how it goes really today, and it has really changed the landscape. Now, the popular writing of Davenport and Back coincides actually with the birth of the era of big data. So they were kind of alarmed by this new phenomenon, and they were curious in their writing what we call factual information, what we do with all this data, where we store it, who stores it, who uses it. These are questions that are not always really very much, obvious, to be fair. Who uses it? That's also a very important question. Like the data that we generate, and we do generate a bunch of data. We have mentioned it before in this class as well, that we don't at all care about who uses our data, because we just keep on accepting all the conditions, of Instagram, this and that. And so for that reason, anybody can use our data, and sometimes we're not even aware of that, what we give permission to other people. Now, I have mentioned that in this 21st century as well, we still very much enjoy saying big things. Information is the oil of the 21st century. Very big saying, of course. Data is the new science of our time. Big data-ism, as I have mentioned, the big isms are always going to be very much, charming for society to be using it. Big data has three very important characteristics, which is going to be physically weightless. So it's just like coronavirus. So many people are not aware that we are doing all this or sharing all this information or all this data about ourselves, just because it's not touchable or tangible. People who are like denying the illness as well, or doing stuff like that, because they can't see it, they won't know that it exists, or they won't want to know that it exists. So the physically weightless characteristic is going to be very important. But of course, it's going to be something that I don't do much on the internet. You know that what you don't do on the internet is also going to be kind of administered or documented, which is going to be important. Potential economic factor, very importantly. I would actually widen this perspective and say that it's a potential economic, social, cultural, political factor. And, I've mentioned that we will go down the political path today. And also producing incredibly fast, for sure. There are these websites, and one time I took a look at it. It was a couple of weeks ago, which is it's like a big data website, and it shows all the numbers that how many children are being born, and the numbers are rolling there, very, very quickly. How many people die, and in that very moment, it's a little slower, but it's kind of going down as well, and it's very sad to think about it, that at the moment it's rolling how many people lose their lives at the moment. And then it also showed how many emails we send per day, how many Google searches we do per day, or in that very moment, of course, and it's rolling down there as well. The emails that we send, for some reason, that was the biggest one. That was I took a look at it in the afternoon, and it was just like 1 billion kind of number. So it's crazy as well. It is producing incredibly fast as well. It's just, that's the culture we live in at the moment. So it's a very complex cultural, technological, and scientific phenomenon which we are talking about at the moment. It's not necessarily the amount of information that is the very characteristic of big data, but the very widespread availability, because data has always been somewhat with us and information has always been somewhat with us. But now the fact that the whole globe is kind of connected to the same thing and we can be sharing things with each other, it's going to be the widespread availability that is going to make it distinct from any kind of previous information or previous kind of substance. So big data is about the capacity of which data is available for us in terms of quantity and access. So it's very important that we do have access to it. Even though we have mentioned that, that was also last week's material, the world's first, second world as well, they do have access to everything. Third world, they do have, like some parts of the third world do have access, but some parts are very much struggling for natural resources as well. Fourth world is either like not at all, they have not heard of it, or they don't want to know it. As we have mentioned, for example, the highly religious groups or the Amish, or like very much pastoral or tribal kind of societies, which either don't know or don't want to know about, the network society, the big data and the internet. There are 5 big V's of big data. First of all, we need to be mentioning the volume, which is going to be quite important. And it represents the amount of data that is growing at a very high rate. So it's got a high volume for sure, because it's rolling every single moment. It also has got a velocity. I'm not sure if you know all these terms. Velocity is going to be the rate at which the data is growing. So velocity is going to be the speed, practically, by which big data is being produced. And social media, of course, highly contributes to the velocity, because now it's not only companies or news media or something that is going to be kind of changing the landscape of content creation, but us ourselves as well, and all the stories, all the images, all the small videos, short videos that we are sharing is going to be contributing to the velocity of producing data. Next up is variety. It refers to the different data types, right? So we do have text, audio, video, and all the different types of data that we are sharing nowadays. So it does have a large variety to it as well. Veracity. Now, it refers to the uncertainty of the available data. So it's like, due to the high volume of data, like that it keeps on producing, it will kind of bring incompleteness or like inconsistency, because sometimes no matter how much data is available online, we're still unable to find something. It's like school websites, of course, or something that we're trying to do, and you're spending half an hour there and it's impossible, even though they show it that if people want to search for something that is like not on one specific website but should be available on other websites as well, if you don't find something within the first 10 seconds, you will move on to another website, they say. That's how impatient we are at the moment. Like, it's like 7 to 10 seconds. If you don't find it, then you're like, oh, this website is not logical, I don't like it, let's move on to another one. We're not wasting too much time on it. And last but not least, value. Value refers to turning data into, as I've mentioned, like business or economic value or money, really, because it's like I keep targeting people with messages, and so based on their big data, and so afterwards I want them to be like buying my whatever product or use my service or do this or do that. So it's definitely generating revenue for business advantages, if you will. So that's going to be the value of data. Now, there are 2 kinds of, it calls it myths. I would say 2 mentalities or 2 attitudes towards big data. And number 1 is the dystopian, number 2 is the utopian view. I think it's the same with everything. The internet itself, the radio, the television, they always had like both a positive and a negative kind of visualization behind them. Dystopian is the negative visualization of the future, where they say that the big data is like the big brother. The more data you produce, the more surveillance you will experience, and the big brother is watching you, and man's privacy, intimacy, and freedom will disappear in the long run, and we are kind of watched or being watched more than in a dictatorship, because this is the modern way of dictatorship, they say, because before all that, other big unions used to watch us, and now it's Big Brother who is watching us. That's it. There is a utopian view as well, which is going to be the idealistic or the positive view to it. in which they say that opportunities, vastness of human knowledge, they are becoming way more efficient because there is a continuous and rapid development behind data, and so many people can be collaborating on the same issue. And this is how, for example, like supranational collaborations are possible. This is how we can do business with Americans, or this is how we can do business from one edge to the other edge of the world, So it's just like, it's a very idealistic and very positive way of looking at data. Now, problems may occur, of course, with the quantity, too much. With the objectivity, so many people say that, it's like, as we have mentioned, that like, the news, I'm not reading propaganda, I'm only reading objective news. There is no such a thing as objective data, not whatsoever. Everything is filtered, everything is selected, everything is put in front of you for a reason, and not because they want you to feel super objective, Data mining, just because it's ready, am I free to use it? Also, like the whole plagiarism as a problem occurs due to that data as well. So you go onto the internet, it's full of data, and you share a content, you share somebody else's thoughts, you share somebody else's image. Is it okay to use it? Is it not okay to use it? Sometimes our own pictures are being used. So when we share somebody else's content, it feels okay. But sometimes, and it happens to quite many students of mine, and I've also seen it myself, that like if somebody else is stealing your profile photo and uses it on another website or uses it as, like a profile picture for a fake profile, we will be revolted, right? So it's like data usage and plagiarism and taking somebody else's substance, it does have some problems as well. Also, can I pursue scientific research based on random Facebook profiles? Now, that was another question of one of my students, because they really wanted to do a content analysis, and just because it's available, like, can I this was the question of my student, like, can I actually take their image and actually analyze it and use it behind their backs just to gain information? These are all very sensitive questions, so it's just like really, really crazy. I wanted to show you a video, and I'm very much praying that my video embedding did work. I wanted to show you, it's a fun video to raise awareness about how we are actually spreading data of ourselves. Let's take a look at that, and let's hope that it actually works. Not yet. Let's take a look now. Okay. Not sure how loud it is.
Taxi. Ik zie een school tegen Antwerpen.
Ja.
Insecten.
Dat blijft?
Ik voel 2 insecten op je rug. Kan dat?
Ja, vlinders.
Slovenie?
Zo hè.
Een moto. Oranje.
Pas erop.
Zenit.
Oui, bien.
Je hebt een vriendin. Julie de...
Ja.
Een boeiend liefdesleven. 3, 4...
De vierde, daar zwijg ik meestal over, dus dat weten niet veel mensen.
Hoe is mijn spierscheur? Maison rouge, balcon... blanc. Ja. Ik zie geld, ik zie transacties, maar kent je rekeningnummer van buiten? Ik denk dat ik het wel weet. Die staat wel negatief op uw bankrekening.
Ja?
97. Last month, you spent €200 on alcohol. Vorige maand €300 aan kleding gespendeerd. 8.
Ja.
5. Voor een huis dat van eigenaar gaat veranderen. €750.000.
Ja, eigenlijk.
41.
Ja.
Is dat juist?
Ja, dat is juist. Oh my god. Oh man. Dat is heel eng.
practically that's it. That's the video I wanted to share with you. So, it was just a set-up scene that he does have a vision and he sees everything behind everybody's life. But practically what he did was actually, like, he had something plugged in his ears, and the programmers were actually, like, whispering it to him what they can actually see. And practically it's all the data that we are sharing about us, which is, like, it was like, interesting, love life. I can see 3 or 4 people. And then the girl said, yeah, but not a lot of people know about it, actually. And it's online. And, spending 300 euros on alcohol per month, or it was like 300 euros spent on clothes. We share everything about ourselves. A muscle being torn, having a tattoo on your back. We just share everything. And this data can be used against us, of course. Now, here comes the fun part, ladies and gents, the data that turned the world upside down. This was the title of this research that I checked out, and I wanted to talk to you about psychologist Michał Kosinski, who was a huge developer and a very big he's this superstar of big dataism at the moment as a psychologist, because he wanted to analyze people in minute detail based on their Facebook activity. Of course, it's like Facebook back then, because he started his research a while ago, and his methods were being used for Donald Trump and for Brexit as well. So let's take a look at how it is. This is Michał Kosinski. He has a PhD in psychometrics, and he works for Cambridge University. I'm not sure if still is, and that's an old photo because he must be older now. But he's a psychologist at Cambridge University, and he researched these questions like how can human behavior and the setup of humans be kind of like put together with big dataism, and then merge it together and then see how it can be used. Very well, by the way. So Michał Kosinski said about big data that big data means in essence that everything we do, both online and offline, will leave a digital trace. And he said that every purchase we make with our cards, every search we type into Google, every single movement we make with our mobile phone with us, of course, every like is stored as well. And he said especially every like. And he was curious about likes, and he really wanted to get to know more about how liking a substance on the internet can actually tell a lot about you as a person, as your personality. So this was Cambridge Analytica, was actually the company behind Trump's online campaign as well. And the same company was Cambridge Analytica was the one that had worked for the LeaveEU.com, so the Brexit campaign as well. And Kosinski's Psychometric Center started researching this, so it was like in collaboration with the Cambridge Analytica. And his researches gave basis to actually getting to know the personalities of every single person, you and me and all of that. I mean, not you and me, because we're not Americans and neither British. We do have one American, though, in the class. But so, everybody, I want to say that, like, it's actually used for everyone. I'm very much sure of it. So what is psychometrics that Kosinski was researching? Psychometrics sometimes is also called as psychographics, and it focuses on measuring the psychological traits such as personality. That's what Kosinski wanted to get to know more of, our personalities and how likely this person or personality will vote for this one or vote against that one, and what sort of targeted messages this particular personality needs in order to vote for this campaign or against the other campaign. In the 1980s, 2 teams of psychologists actually developed a model, and that was giving the basis for Kosinski's point of view. And they were kind of sharing that every single human being will be based on 5 personality traits, and this is going to be called the Big 5, right? Let me show it to you. So number 1 is going to be openness. This is the ocean model, because if you see the acronym, it's like openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. This is going to give the ocean project practically. Okay, so openness, this is like how open you are to new experiences, how adventurous you are practically, and how much you will be susceptible towards new information and new, like, novelty in general. Conscientiousness, how much of a perfectionist are you? So how much you are paying attention to your looks, to organizing your data, to organizing stuff. For example, in Instagram stories as well, you can see that some people are just chucking it out there, and there's just one single story which consists of 1 million little fragments. And some people are really organizing it according to themes as well. That's going to be conscientiousness as well, how much of a perfectionist you are in your real life or online life, as I've mentioned now. Extroversion, how sociable you are, so how much you are an extroverted kind of a person. Agreeableness, how considerate and cooperative you are. Agreeableness, somebody who keeps on liking other person's pictures to show support and stuff like that. That's a lot of agreeableness. And then neuroticism, that's like how neurotic you are or how easily you can be upset. For example, those people who keep sharing articles or substances that like the coronavirus has killed this and that many people, or that the end of the world is coming, or there was a huge storm and so many people got affected by that or something. This is like it's not a neurotic behavior, it's just like something that like you can be easily upset and you are kind of intrigued by these kind of pieces of information. This is the Ocean project around the personality itself. Yeah. Oh, yes, I've also put here, it's in my slideshow as well, there is this link. You can check it out and it will bring you to the Ocean project to get to know your personality type. And then you can take a look like, I have a kind word for everyone. I'm always prepared. I feel comfortable around people. I often feel blue. I believe in the importance of art. And these kind of questions, and then they will give you what sort of a personality suits your personality type the most. But for a long time, the problem with this approach was data collection. So before all that, going up to somebody, with a questionnaire before the online period, because this kind of Ocean project was actually done in the 20th century, so you can tell that they didn't really have very wide internet access and data was not generated that much. And going up to a person with a paper form, they're not going to be that honest, to be perfectly honest with you. So it's just going to be a lot of data distortion, and they did face a big problem with data collection. But now it's really good because a highly personal questionnaire is going to be filled in by ourselves every single time when we make a purchase, when we share our love life, when we share something on the internet. So it's, then came the internet, then came Facebook, and then came Kosinski, and data collection was no longer a problem. Here we go. So remarkably reliable deductions could be actually drawn from very simple online actions. And that's what Kosinski, along with the Cambridge Analytica and his psychometric center, they were curious about this one. I take a look at a very simple online action. For example, if a man likes the cosmetic brand MAC, they were kind of straight away drawing the conclusion that that man with a high chance is going to be gay. Or it's a good indicator that if a person was a man, for example, was liking Wu-Tang Clan, which is like, I put there an image because I didn't know this band myself. I'm not sure where I was living, probably under a rock. And they said that this was a high kind of indication for heterosexuality, because that's like a tough rap band. And so for that reason, it must be some sort of an indication that if you like this rough music, then you must be heterosexual. Followers of Lady Gaga. If you like Lady Gaga's images where she's dressed up in raw meat, for example, this might be an indication that you're an extroverted person. While those people who liked philosophy tend to be introverts. So I know that it sounds super stereotypical at the moment, but they were getting it right with a 90, 95 something % chance. They were getting it really, really right. And so for that reason, just based on likes, so they didn't check out at the beginning. They didn't check out how often a person, for example, refreshed their profile photos, or they didn't check out what sort of substances they shared, because that would have been too much information to process at the beginning, only the likes. And later on, they actually extended their research. But actually, while each piece of such information is too weak to produce reliable predictions, now in tens, in hundreds, in thousands of individual data points, it will be in the long run reliable. So they were testing it on very many people. If a person as a male would like the MAC cosmetic brand, and then they tested it in thousands and millions of people, and then in the end it resulted that their predictions were really, really accurate and very close to reality indeed. So in 2012, Kosinski proved that on the basis of an average 68 Facebook likes, just 68, that's not too many, right? So I'm not sure how active you are on Facebook, because we're no longer using Facebook that often, to be honest. But when it was the peak season of Facebook, I'm not sure how much you did, but I think 68 likes, that's not even impossible within a good 2 weeks or something. And it was possible to predict the skin color with 95% chance, or accuracy, 68 Facebook likes, and they know if you're black or white or whatever. Their sexual orientation, 88% accuracy, that's quite good in my opinion. And their affiliation towards the Democratic or the Republican Party, 85% accuracy. That's not bad, and that's only 68 likes. That's not even too much, is it? And they didn't stop there, of course. Intelligence, religious affiliation, alcohol, cigarette, drug use could be all determined based on likes. And from the data, it was even possible to deduce whether somebody else's parents are divorced or not. So based on your it's possible, like liking habits, it's possible to tell if your parents are actually divorced or not. Crazy, right? So it's like a psychological center that was dealing with all this information. And Kosinski continued to work on models continuously, and before long he was able to evaluate a person better than an average colleague, later on as an average parent, and then later on as the person himself or herself. Facebook knew it, or Kosinski knew us better than we know ourselves. 70 likes were enough to outdo what a person's friends or friendships, like best friends, knew about them. 150 likes were enough to tell what their parents knew. 300 likes what their partner knew, and even more likes than 300 could surpass what a person thought they knew about themselves, which is, kind of crazy to me. At least it's quite crazy. But it was not just about the likes or even about Facebook. Kosinski and his team could now ascribe the big 5 values as well. And so based on the profile pictures and based on everything, I mentioned that they widened their research as well. They started having some conclusions. So, for example, if a person keeps changing their profile pictures or sharing photos or selfies as well, for example, it was an indication of being an extrovert, or how many contacts they have. It's a good indicator for extroversion as well. So in the end, it was not just the likes, but the profile pictures, the contact number, and all the rest of it as well. Yes. Now, as we keep on mentioning, ladies and gents, we also reveal something about ourselves even when we are not online. So, for example, a motion sensor of our phone will quickly kind of tell how far we are traveling, where we are going, and this will correlate to emotional instability or stability, or financial backgrounds as well. So if my phone shows that I'm constantly abroad and I'm traveling back and forth, it will show that either I'm emotionally unstable, which I don't know why Kosinski would think that, or that I'm super wealthy and I belong to a layer, and then it's going to be kind of telling more that I won't vote for Labour, for example, or I won't vote for this and that if I'm super rich or something, because that's not particularly a combination that occurs quite often. Our smartphone, Kosinski concluded, is a vast psychological questionnaire that we are constantly filling out. So it's really good, because a paper form questionnaire we wouldn't fill out honestly, because there is another person there. And if they ask you some uncomfortable questions, and even though your opinion would be something that society, doesn't like, or that something people would think that you're crazy or racist or something, you wouldn't fill out that questionnaire honestly. And then online we are filling out very honest questionnaires, because the articles we are reading, the amount of profile photos we are changing, the likes that we are sharing, that's going to say a lot about us as well, consciously and unconsciously too. So his ocean online data collecting method was copied, and it was being used for Brexit and for Donald Trump's campaign as well. They both hired Cambridge Analytica to be working with and to be gaining information of the people and of their personalities as well, and to know what sort of targeted messages each personality will need. Hillary Clinton was also, so don't have illusions, ladies and gents, everybody is using big data. Hillary Clinton was receiving support from Google and DreamWorks, but Cambridge Analytica was using this psychometric. So it was not just like using data, but it was also using this personality test into it, and it seemed to be working better. So the Google and DreamWorks that Hillary Clinton was using didn't seem to be that complex because it was just using the data. But Cambridge Analytica was using data collection as well as psychometrics, so the Ocean model, the big 5 personalities, and then that was it. The idea behind Cambridge Analytica was that all women should receive the same message because of their gender. Very stereotypical, but it worked. All African Americans should receive the same message because of their race. And that's what a Cambridge Analytica worker said, that for a highly neurotic and conscientious audience, the threat of a burglary and the insurance policy of a gun will be a targeted message that they should receive. So when we say that we live in a period where online media is going to be, like a blank surface that we can fill in with information, and that if we can choose to see some very objective opinions. No, it's based on our kind of psychological and personality kind of traits as well, what we receive, and all the data, all the articles, everything is customized towards your own self and towards your own needs. Social media is coming up, but that's for next week, ladies and gents. The video is already long enough, so thank you so much for being here with me. And now let's move into Teams and talk about what we have heard today. Oops, sorry. Thank you so much, and see you in a minute. Bye-bye.